Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Bootcamp Blueprint, the place where personal trainers go to grow their bootcamp and social media. I'm super excited because we have a big name on this week, one of the top people in the industry. This person is a mum, a holistic health expert, and co-owner of the Kaizen Institute of Health and Charity Movement. Angela is specialized in mentoring health professionals looking to unleash their genius within the world and live their best life. She also specializes in optimal health programs with a particular interest in stress hormonal balance, epigenetics, and functional health. Angela brings over 20 years of experience in the industry with her detailed mentoring and coaching world, which includes the third richest man and his family and award-winning PTs. She's a regular speaker at FitX in New Zealand and the Asia Fitness Conference, and she runs workshops across Australia and New Zealand. She's also writing her first book. And you can find Angela most mornings down on the beach exercising with her 2-year-old daughter, starting the day in her favorite place. And as a public speaker, mentor, and coach, Angela's message is #life is short, what's possible. So let me introduce, without further ado, the one and only Angela. How are you, Angela?
Oh, good, Jono. Great to be on. Yeah, great to have me on. I'm really excited about the chat today.
Me too. Now, hey, Angela, we've got a lot to speak about today. But before we do, I like to start my podcast off with a quote or mantra that inspires you or fires you up. Have you got one for us?
Yeah, I do. And it is the hashtag that I live by now, which is life is short, what's possible. And that's really what gets me up every day. And I guess the main reason behind that is I had a son who lived for 104 days in 2015 after a pretty rough pregnancy, and he was in intensive care premature. It's a long story, but it's a really strong reminder to me how short life really is, and I think we need to make the most of it. And so that's the first part of it. And then the what's possible, I just love that because I think it just opens up so much for us, and it really excites me to think, wow, what is possible in this life? And yeah, so that's really what gets me going, and I live by it every day.
So powerful. I'm so glad you shared that because I love that. Now, what we want to speak about, right? And we're going to go, let's start simple and then we'll get a bit deeper into what you do. So let's just say, Angela, in a nutshell, you meet someone at a barbecue. They're like, Angela, what do you do? How do you explain that in a sentence or two? And then we'll go deeper.
I usually just tell people I own the co-owner of the Kaizen Institute of Health with Dave Leo, and we run education programs for health professionals around Australia and New Zealand and Asia. And we also have an online component where we offer health testing for health. And personally, I also speak, mentor and coach lots of different people. And I guess my main mission is I really want to inspire people to connect them to what their reason for being is and unlock in them the will to live like their most fulfilling life. Like, I know that's probably a bit of thing, but I really think that makes people stop and think and go, I don't even know what my reason for being is. And, what is my most fulfilling life? Am I actually living it? So, it's quite full on sometimes, but it really is what I'm about. There's no point wasting time because, as we know, life's short. So I guess that's sort of how I go in there a lot of the time.
I love that. So congruent with my beliefs as well, because I feel there's a lot of push for, motivation and that sort of thing. And like, that's cool. But I feel where if you're well aligned with what you do and why, the less motivation you really need. It's more just fun, right? You just love what you do and you get that natural energy. And it's not so much about, reading the motivational quotes or having the cups of coffees to get you motivated. You do it because you're almost getting pulled to what you love. So I really, really love that. Now,
yeah.
Okay, so now let's give us the full story there, Angela. Where did you start and how did you get from where you started to where you are now? And take your time with this story because I feel there's probably little lessons where you can stop along the way and then share how my listeners are like, hey, so this is what I found in my journey. If you're listening to this is what I recommend you do. So if you can go for it, tell me the full kit and caboodle.
Full kit and caboodle. Well, I actually did a human movements degree, so exercise science at the University of Queensland, grew up in Brisbane. And I guess I only did that because I played sport. I had really nothing else to do. I didn't know, like a lot of people, you just kind of fall into it. I had no idea what I was going to do. And so I thought, I'll just move to Sydney because the Olympics was on, in 2000. I thought that'd be a cool vibe. So moved down to Sydney, and I also played in a touch football World Cup. So I had a lot going on, by the time I was 21. And then from there, I just started training people. So I worked in the centre of Sydney, worked in a gym in there for the first 12 months. And after that, I thought, you know what, I can do this on my own. So I went out on my own, did a lot of outdoor work, got into some corporate work in my early 20s. And, I'm one of those type A personalities. Like, I go hard, I work hard, I play hard. I was always like that. So I had no problem, telling the head of Deloitte's, in my corporate program in Sydney what he was going to do at 22. That's kind of what I do. And I had a real passion for that. And then after a while, I just sort of got a bit of a travel bug, and I thought, well, I can just do the same thing in London. So I upped and moved over to London, pretty much did the same thing, worked in a gym for 12 months, and then set up my business over there. And that's where I was very fortunate, just out at a dinner one night to happen to meet the PA for, at the time, the richest person in the UK, who I had no idea who he was. And turned out he ended up being the third richest person in the world. And I ended up training him and all of his family, and just, it opened up a whole new world for me. I managed all of their health. And I guess that's when I first started to explore, and I was training other clients as well. It's like, I love exercise. I was pushing people really hard, and I used to think there must be some people that aren't doing what I'm telling them to do, because they just weren't getting the results. I'm thinking, why aren't they listening to my program? So then I started, exploring different avenues. So, looking at different nutritional things like gluten-free and dairy-free. And then I also started going down different paths into the Paul Chek type work and holistic lifestyle coaching. I've also done quite a bit of spiritual work, like Reiki and energy work as well. And I just started to think, it's more than exercise. There's more than exercise here. My passion is like helping people live their best life. And am I actually doing the right thing by them if I'm not learning these things? So that's where I started to explore all those different, those avenues. But it's sort of at the time when I look back in London, like I was doing some yoga and I was eating gluten and dairy free, but I'd still go out and have, 100 champagnes on the weekend and no sleep and, burn the candle at both ends. And I think to myself, I've been that trainer, and I know there's a lot of trainers that absolutely do that. It's about, I thought at the time living my, biggest, most fulfilling life. And then after a while, my mum was quite ill, and so I moved back to Australia, which was giving up quite a big gig over there. And when I come back, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I actually spent about 12 months on the dark side, actually doing a contract for a pharmaceutical company.
Oh, wow.
And I guess the reason, selling a diabetes drug, and it was really interesting. I just went into it because I could get a car and a phone. I didn't have to think about setting up my business. I did it. And I look back on my journey, and I think that was such an important part of my journey, because I was so misaligned with my values that it opened up a world to me about what I actually do believe in. And that sort of, I guess, prompted me to get back into the exercise, but also the functional health type world, which is about looking at the underlying cause rather than just treating symptoms with drugs. Because I saw the dark side of that, where people were pushing a drug that actually causes heart failure and saying diet and exercise don't work for diabetes. I stood in conferences where they're teaching doctors this, and I just thought, oh my God, this is so not right. So it actually prompted me to go a bit deeper into the functional health world, where I started to look at a lot of hormonal studies, so looking at the hormonal balance of our body. Because I guess after a while, then it was like I was implementing certain nutritional principles, I was implementing exercise, then it's like, there's something still missing here. Like, what's this missing link? And that's where I started to delve into a lot of the hormonal balance, which was, again, just a massive eye-opener for me. So I've gone down that path heavily. And a lot of our mentoring programs that we do at the Kaizen Institute of Health, we actually teach trainers a lot of that work as well. And it's really, the power of lifestyle intervention and getting to the cause is so powerful. So then I sort of was going down this path, and I was talking about stress and hormonal balance, and I'd be speaking on that. I spoke at FitX, and what's quite interesting is there's this little voice in my head that's going, stress, like, am I a bit of a fraud? Because I was implementing all the practices. I meditated, I followed everything I did, I had morning routines, I had perfect weeks, I did all this stuff, but I actually didn't have much stress in my life, and I actually thought, am I a bit of a fraud here? Because are people going to believe me because I don't have much stress? And anyway, then it was basically 2015 is when my life changed, where I had a horrible pregnancy. I was on bed rest for 3.5 months and in the intensive care unit with my son. And I guess for me, it's been, a massive eye opener and a bit of a shift in perspective, certainly about how we prioritize what's important to us in our business. And I think there's some really important lessons around that work, while it's our passion and our purpose, we still have to look at what our other values around our family and what's important to us and how we look after ourselves. So I guess I've done that. And then also I had my other daughter as well. So I guess now more of my passion is going down the path of helping people, really manage themselves and live their best life, because I see it so often that I see two things often. I see trainers who don't value themselves or realize how great they are and the actual impact they're having on people's lives. And I also see trainers putting everyone else first instead of themselves, and their health declining, hugely. So I guess, and I've been that person as well. So I guess sort of that brings me to sort of where I am now. And Dave and I set up Kaizen nearly going on 9 years ago now, on the Sunshine Coast. And yeah, we developed our mentorship holistic health program. So that's probably long-winded. I've got 20 years I had to fit in. I tried to do my best summarizing.
Wow, yeah. No, that's a lot of in-depth there. So many takeaways. Let's go. I was going to summarize that, but I'm like, wow, that might be the full podcast. So yeah, that might be the full podcast summarizing that. So maybe we just go straight to the detail. And now let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, hey, Angela, I resonate with that. I'm a PT and I'm working 1,000,000 hours and I love what I do and I love helping people, but I just don't have any energy. I'm spending all my time helping these other people and now I'm tired. I'm struggling to get my own workouts in. I'm not as fit as I want to be. Now when I get home, I just want to kick back and sleep. I don't have the energy to go out on weekends anymore. Like, what do I do? All right. First of all, you've probably seen that a few times with trainers, right?
Look, to be honest, it was quite scary. We actually ran some stats on people who have come through our program, and we found about 70% of trainers were in the adrenal exhaustive phase. And
70%.
70%. So, if trainers who are health professionals are like that, what example are we setting for our clients? One, but also what state are our clients in? And I'm a big believer that if we want our clients to be a certain way, we really need to be the change we want to see in the world. So, it's really about valuing your time. And what a lot of people don't realize is that it only takes, like, your sympathetic, so your stress busy state, it only takes 90 seconds to get out of it, right? You don't get deep into it, but it only takes 90 seconds. So, everyone has 90 seconds a couple of times a day where they can stop and breathe, sit down and have a cup of tea, just take that moment, because what that's doing is that's just starting to calm down. Because when you get in that sympathetic state, hormones disrupt, you can't see stuff, you're never going to get the results that you're after, and we see so many people burn out. So, the simplest things like that can make a difference. And, I always say to people, like, how many times do we have our training scheduled in and then a client wants to change time and we go, oh yeah, sure, no problem, I'll let you in. And I think that's something we need to respect ourselves and shift that a little bit, because, if you're not valuing yourself, how's a client ever going to value you? And I think that actually limits a lot of trainers' success, because ultimately you're only as successful as what you value yourself to be. So I think, it's changing the mindset there about how people look at their time. It's not this, $100 I'm going to lose now. It's actually what it's going to bring me in abundance by putting myself ahead first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, love it. Wow. So knowledgeable, Angela. Every sentence you say, I just jot down like 3 or 4 points that are to summarize. But hey, I do have a question here. So yes. testing for adrenal fatigue. So 70% of trainers you tested have it. If someone's listening, how can they test? What's the best way for them to test?
Yeah, just we have a team.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, you got.
Yeah. We have our Kaizen website, Kaizen Institute of Health website, and we have a list of advanced health coaches and health practitioners around Australia and New Zealand. So if they actually go there, they'll be able to find one of our coaches and they'll be able to contact them and look at ordering a test and a consult through there. So so we have that all set up because they're all trained. They've come through our program all trained in that.
I want to do it myself. I might jump on that website in a sec after this podcast and have a look. Yeah, because I think it's important to know, right? That's step number 1. Am I in adrenal fatigue?
I think awareness is the first thing. And what's really interesting, some people that we've had tested, they've got their results and they've been low, and they're like, they've questioned the lab results, they've done this, they go, I actually feel good. And what's really interesting, I just go, look, let's just follow the program, let's just see how you feel. I just nurture them along. And there's one girl in particular that really stood out, because about 3 weeks later, she emailed us after like taking some meditation time and relaxed time. She goes, oh my God, I didn't realize how tired I was until I'm now not tired. And this is what happens. Like, we accept this new normal because there's this thing, sympathetic tuning, and we get used to this new stress in our body. And it's not until you actually forget what that's like that, you know what I mean? And the test often, like, people think that they're okay, but the test is a real eye opener sometimes, and it really helps facilitate change in a lot of people.
Awesome. Now, just can I have that website? So for our listeners there, the website
it's
to test.
Yeah, it's www.kaizen, KAIZENIH.com.
Awesome. I'm going to write that down here as well. So Kaizen?
IH.com.
Awesome. All right, cool. And then from there, there's a few little ways we can go. Let's start with the mindset side of things. As you mentioned, the trainer's only going to be as successful as what they value themselves, right? So if you don't value yourself, it's going to struggle to get ahead. Let's go to some practical tips now. So what should a trainer do, I guess, A, to make sure that they're valuing themselves, and then B, to make sure that they don't burn out. Now, big topic, I know. So let's just start simple, and we'll go from there. What would be the first step? Someone's like, oh, you know what? That's me. I'm flat out. I've done this test here. I see I do have adrenal fatigue. What would be, say, your first step from there?
The first step, I would get them to look at their week, and I would get them to actually schedule in some rest time, some breathing time, whether or not it's 5 minutes or whatever it is, and I would actually get that implemented into their schedule straight away, because if it's not in the schedule, it doesn't happen. I'm also a big believer in morning and evening routine, so starting the day with a morning routine, either some type of relaxation and focus, and also evening. I think those bookends of the day are really important. And the other main thing that I really get a lot of people to do is I get them to write down 3 things that they absolutely love doing and 3 things that they value. And then I ask them, when's the last time that you did that? Is your calendar reflecting that? Because a lot of time people say they value their health or they love going surfing or whatever. And then when I ask when's the last time they do it, they haven't surfed in 5 years. Or how can they value their health if they keep putting their clients' training in ahead of them? So sometimes it's really about realizing what you value and what you love doing and getting it in the calendar, because, you know, life's short, and, you know, so many people that I've worked with, so many successful people never have regrets about, you know, the time that they spend with their family or out doing the things they love. It's always the other way. It's always about the time they spent at work or, you know, other priorities.
Yeah, love it. So let's summarize that. So I got 3 takeaways there. The first thing is schedule it in. Right. So if you're going to do you got to relax some point throughout the day, right? Make sure that you schedule it in there, because if you don't schedule it, it doesn't happen. The other thing was the morning routine and the evening routine. And I love that, even just from a common sense point of view, right? It's like, okay, even if I'm flat out during the day, if I know I've got a bit of time to kick back in the evening, and I know I've got a bit of time to kick back in the morning, it's just a lot less stressful, right? And then the third thing is booking it or writing down 3 things that you love and 3 things that you value, and making sure that you actually do them. Otherwise, what's the point of living, right? And it goes back to the whole push and pull. Like, if you're going to work hard, that's great, but don't work hard just for the sake of working hard, right? Work hard so you can do these things that you love doing. So I love those 3 things there. So then I'm going to throw a bit of a challenge out here to you, Angela, but I know you're going to handle it because this is your bread and butter and this is what I believe is your specialty. Let's say a trainer's listening to this. They're like, yeah, Angela, that's great, but I've got to work. I've got to make money. You know, I'm a personal trainer and I need to work 30 sessions a week or whatever it may be at $50 a session to make sure that I've got enough money to pay the rent and to live my life. So, you know, I can't do that. What would be your suggestion there? Are there any other ways they can think or any other strategies to, you know, to open them up a bit?
I think the first point I mentioned earlier was that it only takes 90 seconds, right, to get out of your sympathetic state. So they actually do have little short breaks, even if you are doing 30 sessions a week. So that's absolutely, you know, everyone has that. It's just a matter of prioritizing it. And I think the other thing what trainers don't realize is that there's so many more opportunities to for different income streams and to leverage themselves a lot more rather than just this per hour type session. I mean, 2009, I look back and in my calendar, I'm doing 50 to 60 sessions a week. I was bang, bang, bang. And, I was living on the Sunshine Coast at the time, not getting to the beach in the morning, which is my favorite thing to do because I was scheduling all my clients in, thinking I had to because it was busy time. Now, I think there's opportunities if people step back and look at what's important to them and go, actually, I'd really like to be at the beach at that time, or I'd like to go to yoga here. There's always an opportunity that could be being missed. They could move some people into group training. They could buddy people up. They could, look at running a little workshop once a quarter. They could look at going into a couple of retreats. They could do other elements to their program. So there's so many different ways that are in front of them. So what I'd say to, those trainers is that there's a way to do it. I've done it. If you look at my calendar now to my calendar then, it's proof, so there is a way. So I think it really I'd like to challenge them, like, what could they look at changing where they can still earn that money, but value themselves as well, or earn more money, to be honest.
Love it. I love that. So to all our listeners, that's your challenge there. If you're in that position and you're like, oh, I'm flat out, I've just got to train all these clients. Hey, take a step back and come up with different strategies. And Angela's just mentioned a few off the bat there. Hey, do group training. Hey, buddy people up. Hey, do workshops. Hey, do retreats. Right? And they're even just off the top of Angela's head there. And also, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not saying that's going to work for every single person, right? There are options. Hey, give that a crack. If you like it, great. If you didn't like it, okay, what works for you, and move towards that there. So I love that there. And I'd like to follow that up because I know you help trainers with a lot of this sort of thing yourself, Angela. What are some interesting things either you've come up with or other trainers have come up with when you've challenged them there? Give me like 2 or 3 of the most interesting out of the box things that you wouldn't expect someone who's thinking of this and they're trading dollars for time in the gym. They're like, oh, wow, I would have never thought of that as a trainer. Could you rattle off some interesting ones for us?
Yeah, I think what I like to do with a lot of people is for them to understand what their strengths are, because when you know what your strengths are, then you can choose which path is best for you. Like, some people are good in groups, some people aren't so much, So, there's people that I've worked with who are great in groups, so we've really gone down that path of really ramping up the group side of things. And where people have got some great opportunities is like with, say, their boot camps, is that boot camps are always about going hard, right? So opportunities that have opened up is they've actually done working in boot camps and relaxation boot camps. Rather than sending people off to yoga, they've actually ran the relaxation. So they're actually getting a chance to relax in that 45 minutes. They're making money and they've got an extra session. So, that's, one type of example. And, there's other people that have incorporated a lot of coaching and lifestyle coaching as well. So it's not just about, there's 168 hours in a week. They might only see you for once. There's a lot of time. So, there's a lot of stuff we can sit down and consult with. So offering sort of a coaching component has been a big one. People that I work with have done online programs and writing to get passive income, or setting up products and, things like that. So there's so many different, people have gotten speaking gigs, there's so many different avenues when you start to look at it. Like, I could talk, I won't take up the whole podcast, but there's so many. There are so many, and there's so many great trainers that aren't realizing this, that's right in front of them, is my opinion.
Yeah, love it. And I want to go a bit deeper here. One thing I love about, or actually 2 things I love about your story there, Angela, 2 things I pinpointed, which I think you did really well. And I believe if trainers follow these 2 things, they'll also be successful. I believe the first one was the continuing education, right? It wasn't just, okay, cool, I've got my degree and then that's it, I know everything, and then it's everyone else's fault. It was like, all right, cool, I'm going to keep learning and learning and learning and learning. And I feel, do you agree that that's been a big part of your success as well? And that would be something we recommend trainers to do, continually educate?
Oh, massively. I just think it's like critical. Like, I actually was just looking, we're actually talking about this in a call we're doing tomorrow, but I actually went back the last 2 years and actually looked at, I was off having my daughter, but I still looked at the professional development that I did personally. And, I've been in it 20 years. I could say, well, I know enough information, but I'm constantly, because that's how you increase your value and your opportunity. And I would say for trainers, like, if you're not doing that, I really don't know how you can be a successful trainer, to be totally honest.
Oh, I love that you said that, because I agree. And it's funny. Like, I sell a lot of CEC courses, right? That's a big part of my business. And, you speak to a lot of trainers, they're like, oh, yeah, it looks interesting. But, I've already done my 20 CECs for the 2 years, so I'll look at it in a couple of years' time. And I'm sort of like, ooh, that's like the bare minimum, like just to keep you in the industry, right? Like, and if that's the attitude of like, I'm just going to do the bare minimum to stay in the industry, your results will probably be the bare minimum as well. But if you really want to make an impact and help more people or grow your business or help people more, you've got to keep educating there. Now, I know you do a lot of educating yourself at either your own mentorship and also at Kaizen Institute of Health. Is that right, Angela?
Yeah, so Dave and I at the Kaizen Institute of Health run a health practitioner program. So we have different levels there, and we also have an advanced health coaching program. It's all about a holistic health. Like Dave does the musculoskeletal side. He's an absolute guru there, and I come in with the lifestyle hormonal side. So we have that program, and I've also recently opened up some mentoring spots where I'm taking on a small group to actually help with their business, the technical skills outside of that as well, like a year program, because I just love it when people realize what they can do. And we've had some amazing successful people that we've mentored, and it's just, you know, if you had seen them at the start, you would never have known that that's that same person, you know, and I love that. It excites me. So it just makes me, you know, the trainers that are there listening, if you think, oh, well, I can't do that, like when you hear some of the stories of trainers that have shifted, and then I'm talking in a 2-3 year period, like it's pretty phenomenal as, again, what's possible, you know.
Love that. And then the other key point I saw in your story as well is when you met the third richest person in the world, or the richest person in the UK, I felt like that opened your eyes a bit. You're like, okay, this is the sort of stuff that's possible. And I think that's powerful as well. If trainers are listening to this, it helps to hang around other successful people or other driven people, because that rubs off on you, right? So, and I believe, is that also another big part of your mastermind as well, and your mentorship as well? I guess just hanging around yourself, who's very successful, Dave, who's very successful, and other trainers that are obviously also interested in furthering themselves as well. Would you say that's a huge benefit as well?
Oh, massively, massively. You know, like they say, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend your most time with. And what we find is when people, you know, start getting ahead, people start to look at them as like, oh, hang on, you're doing all weird stuff. Like, and they try to pull them down a little bit. So when you're around all these people, and the groups that we have and the people that we work with, they're so amazing at lifting each other up. And I'm sure you find that as well with what you do. And it's just phenomenal. People feed off the energy they share. It's like, we always say to everyone, you know what, there's enough sick and unhealthy people for everyone. It's not about keeping this secret. It's about, I'm always about giving everything that I have to everyone. If that means, and I recommend people go do lots of other courses, not just my course either, because I'm a big believer in, you know, doing what's great out there. And yeah, so it's so important.
Love it. Well, hey, if you're listening to this and Angela resonates with you and her style there, I definitely recommend checking out her mentorship. Best place, Angela, just angelajenkins.com.au. What is it?
Yeah, angelajenkins.com.au.
angelajenkins.com.au.
Yep, and also kaizenih.com, which we gave earlier as well, has different stuff for people.
Awesome. I'll put all these in the description as well. And also, people are you're open. If trainers are listening to this, they're able to add you on Facebook. You're cool with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love connecting with people and following people's journeys too. Like it actually really, you know, it's the mentor always learns from the student too. So I would love to connect with people who want to learn and, you know, be their best self.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're coming to the end of the podcast here, Angela, but I've got a few questions I like to ask all my guests to finish with. The first one, funny question, it's about mentors. So I know you're obviously a mentor to a lot of trainers out there. I'd ask the question, who are your mentors, Angela, or who have been your mentors over the years?
I'm such a big believer in getting mentoring. So I actually have a team of mentors, I guess, from different avenues, you know, like I see a psychologist regularly. I think that's really important. I see mindset coaches. I've got an energy person I see. I've worked with Ian O'Dwyer a lot about my movement work, a guru in the industry. I've done a couple of years back, I did a massive thing with the Entrepreneurs Institute with Roger Hamilton and Wealth Dynamics, and that was a massive eye-opener. But yeah, I have a really solid team around me because I know that that's what I need to be successful and to keep me going. And to be honest, to deal, like I've had some of the biggest life challenges thrown at me the last few years, and there's no way I would be where I am without those people. Just no way.
Love it. Love that you answered that. It's always interesting, but it's funny, you know, you always ask the mentor, hey, who are your mentors? They've always got them, right? Because they value it, and you'd almost be a hypocrite, right? If you're sitting here on the
Oh,
podcast saying, yeah, you want to be successful, you got to get a mentor, and then you don't have any, well, hey, Angela's got 5 of them. So if you're listening to this, the mentor has 5. So at least start with one. And then also, Angela, books and podcasts. What are if you can give us a couple of your favorite books and or podcasts that you listen to or read there?
I guess I'm a Oprah Super Soul podcast junkie. I just love all of her guests, and I just love the lessons and the messages. And there's been so many amazing people on that I often follow as well. So I think that's my big go-to. I'm overdosing on that at the moment. In terms of books, there's so many, I guess, great books. At the moment, I've just bought Michelle Obama's
Nice.
Becoming autobiography. So that's sort of, I guess, the next one on my list. Something that's been really helpful from a parenting thing that I've read in the last couple of years was conscious parenting. So about the lessons that we're learning from our children and that type of stuff. I'm a big Brene Brown fan.
Yes.
Daring Greatly, that type of stuff. So yeah, they would be some of the things at the moment that I'm interested in.
I'll put them in the podcast description as well. Well, hey, Angela, that's all we've got time for today. We've gone over the basics there. Is there anything that I forgot? Anything that I should have mentioned that didn't? Anything you want to get off your chest before we leave you to it?
I'm pretty good, actually. I think you've done an amazing job. I just love your energy, and I think the people that you work with are really, really lucky to have you. And I think it's great what you're doing for the industry as well. So I just thought I'd share that, but that's the last bit to get off my chest.
That's very sweet. I was hoping you'd talk about yourself, but thank you. I do appreciate that. Wait, Angela, that's all we've got time for today. I'm going to put all those links down in the description of the podcast, and let's keep in touch.
Sounds good. Thanks heaps, Jono.